There are films born to become blockbusters. But there are also films that simply dare to do what no one else dares to do. The Kentucky Fried Movie in 1977 belongs to the latter group. Watching it for the first time, many people thought this was just a series of crazy, messy comedy sketches with no rules. But looking back, after nearly half a century, one realizes that it was this very chaos that paved the way for an entire generation of American comedy that followed. Without it, so much of the laughter we grew accustomed to in the 80s and 90s would likely have taken a completely different shape. What I have always loved about this film is not that it tries to make everyone laugh constantly. It is because behind every bold satire is the recklessness of young filmmakers, people ready to mock every stereotype that Hollywood at the time considered untouchable. And for that very reason, the process of creating the film was filled with interesting stories, unexpected accidents, and secrets that even many longtime cinephiles have never heard of. Today, we will look back at 15 behind-the-scenes facts that contributed to make the Kentucky Fried Movie a crazy yet deeply iconic work of American cinema. E. The salary of director John Landis. If the overall production cost already surprised you, the salary that director John Landis received will truly make you question fairness in the film industry. Can you believe it? A talented director who later created masterpieces that shook Hollywood like Animal House or the legendary music video Thriller by Michael Jackson accepted to steer this ship with a salary of exactly $600. Yes, you did not hear it wrong. That is exactly the figure of $600 for the entire process of hard work from the idea stage until the filming finished. In the glamorous world of Hollywood, this is a remuneration that can be considered ridiculously low, not even enough to cover the most basic needs of a normal worker during the filming period. However, for John Landis at that time, that money was not as important as the ticket to enter the professional film market. He saw in the Kentucky Fried Movie a golden opportunity, a fertile land where he could freely show off his unique comedy style and innate directing talent. He accepted to embark on a risky gamble where artistic passion was put above all else and material benefits were only secondary. It was that brave nod to the modest salary that proved a truth that sometimes short-term financial sacrifice is the solid foundation to build a brilliant empire of fame later. His dedication not only helped the film finish on schedule, but also created a masterful staging style, helping a low-budget work have a very polished and professional appearance. Or, invested in by an adult theater owner. When the doors of the famous Hollywood studios had completely closed and the hope of the film crew seemed to have hit rock bottom, an unexpected savior appeared. The only person brave enough to pull out his wallet and bet on this risky project was Kim Jorgensen. What is worth mentioning here, and also the detail that surprised many people, is his job identity. Kim Jorgensen was not a mainstream film tycoon, but he was the owner of a chain of movie theaters specializing in showing adult content. While the big studio bosses trembled at the novelty of the script, with his experience in the independent entertainment industry, Jorgensen saw huge potential hidden behind these satirical and rebellious scenes. He decided to spend precious capital from his personal pocket to nurture the project when everyone else turned their backs. It was his network of independent and somewhat underground movie theaters that created a perfect launching pad, helping the Kentucky Fried Movie directly reach the audience segment that was already familiar with and preferred bold, gritty content that did not follow the beaten path. The combination of a breakthrough comedy and an unofficial distribution system created a big explosion in the public heart. Without the need for flashy advertising campaigns at luxury theaters, the movie crept in and spread strongly on its own, and then, from a rejected work, it rose to become a pop culture phenomenon, a masterpiece in the hearts of fans, also known as a cult classic. If not for the different vision and risk-taking of an adult theater owner like Kim Jorgensen, perhaps the world would have forever lost one of the most influential comedy films of all time. This turning point not only solved the financial problem, but was also a testament to the fact that sometimes true artistic values find life in places where people least expect them. Sen. A super cheap budget. Can you believe it? When the entire massive project titled The Kentucky Fried Movie was made with a budget of only $650,000? If placed in the context of the late 70s, this is an extremely modest figure, if not impossibly low, for a widely released motion picture. For comparison, this budget was not even a small fraction of the budgets of medium-sized films of the same era, making it a financial headache for the creators. However, it was the lack of money that became a powerful motivation, driving the creative spirit and unlimited dedication of the entire production team. To be able to bring these films to the big screen, the crew members had to agree to make unprecedented sacrifices. They did not just take on a single professional job, but had to literally carry many different roles at the same time. We can easily see people who were just busy adjusting lights or arranging cameras a second ago, then the next second they had to change clothes to transform into background actors in humorous sketch segments. Not stopping there, from positions such as production assistants to prop managers, everyone had to jump into the common work to minimize the cost of hiring outside labor. Everything in the film, from the setting to the smallest decorations, was utilized from available materials or handcrafted with the sole goal of turning those few dollars into the most expensive laughs for the audience. It was this self-sacrificing work spirit and versatility that created a unique mark, a very own soul for the movie that no huge amount of money could buy. Sue, the missed role of Beaver. Continuing with the volatile behind-the-scenes stories, we cannot fail to mention a last-minute casting mishap that created an unforgettable mark in the history of the film. Initially, our ambitious production team nurtured the intention of inviting two once-famous child stars from the classic family movie titled Leave It to Beaver, who are Jerry Mathers and Tony Dow. They hoped that putting two iconic faces of standards and morality into a highly satirical movie would create an extremely powerful, humorous effect. The audience would surely burst out laughing seeing their childhood idols appear in the most ironic and messy situations. However, all initial plans did not go smoothly as expected. After long rounds of negotiations, the agreement with actor Jerry Mathers completely failed at the last minute due to not reaching a consensus on work terms. His sudden absence pushed the film crew into an extremely difficult situation when the filming schedule was near. In the face of difficulty, wisdom emerged, and screenwriter David Zucker decided to make a bold decision. He would play the role of Beaver himself in the hilarious courtroom scene. This reluctant replacement seemed like a step back, but in reality, it brought a unique charm, bold with the improvisational nature of the independent comedy genre. The fact that a screenwriter directly jumped into the frame not only helped the crew save a significant amount of money, but also showed the spirit of being ready to sacrifice for art, a consistent characteristic that we have seen from the beginning of this list. The ghost producer, Samuel L. Bronkowitz. Throughout the movie, audiences frequently see the name Samuel L. Bronkowitz Productions, appearing solemnly in fake commercials and trailers. This name sounds extremely powerful, bearing the style of veteran movie tycoons in the golden age of Hollywood. However, there is a harsh truth that in this world, there is absolutely no producer with such a name. This is actually just a fictional character, a ghost name invented by the film crew to create a more professional and classy cover for their low-budget project. The reason behind this trick was extremely practical. At that time, an unknown film crew with young people often faced many difficulties when renting filming equipment or background settings. They were often squeezed on price by service providers or even flatly rejected due to lack of reputation. By using the impressive-sounding name Samuel L. Bronkowitz Productions, they created an illusion of a large and long-standing production organization. This fake name helped them negotiate prices more easily and borrow modern equipment that they would normally never have the chance to touch. This can be considered a spectacular and clever trick, showing the wonderful resourcefulness of the production team when facing the grim reality of the film industry. The name Bronkowitz later became a fun icon in the fan community as a reminder of the unlimited creativity of independent filmmakers. Leo. The unexpected appearance of veteran stars. One of the factors creating the strange attraction of this movie is the participation of the most prestigious names in Hollywood at that time. Although the film had an extremely limited production budget, the crew was very clever in persuading veteran stars to participate in interesting guest roles. The most typical example is actor Donald Sutherland, who accepted to transform into an extremely clumsy man in the segment called That's Armageddon. Besides, the audience was also amazed to see the presence of George Lazenby, a former actor who once played the legendary spy James Bond. Bringing faces that were associated with serious, cold, or glamorous roles into extremely silly and ridiculous situations was a master move by the director. The strong contrast between the professional, serious demeanor of the stars and the weird lines and actions created an extremely valuable humorous effect. The audience could not help but laugh when they saw the idols they admired were willing to make themselves look bad to serve the laughter of the public. This was the key factor that helped the film escape the label of a cheap work and affirm its superior creative class. C. Huge revenue success compared to the budget. Closing this list is an extremely fulfilling ending for the tireless efforts of the entire film crew. Although initially shunned and flatly rejected by almost all major studios in Hollywood, immediately after being released through the independent theater system, the Kentucky Fried Movie created an earthquake at the box office. From an initial small production budget of only $650,000, the movie earned a huge figure of more than $15 million in global revenue. This is an extremely terrifying profit ratio, a figure that even modern blockbusters today must crave. This resounding success not only brought financial wealth, but was also a firm affirmation of the talent of director John Landis. Thanks to this solid stepping stone, he gained absolute trust from producers and was immediately assigned the responsibility of carrying out the National Lampoon's Animal House project. The next film officially brought John Landis to the ranks of the most powerful A-list directors in Hollywood, opening a new era for his brilliant career. The story of the film's revenue will forever be an inspiring lesson for young filmmakers. As long as you have a breakthrough idea, success will find you sooner or later. Bye. Censored because of nunchucks. If you think that only bloody horror movies are strictly censored, then the truth about the Kentucky Fried Movie in the international market will make you change your mind. In the sketch segment, parodying martial arts movies titled Fistful of Yen, there are action scenes using the legendary weapon of nunchucks. However, it was these segments that became a thorn in the eyes of censors in Britain and Ireland at that time. According to the extremely strict laws of these countries in the late 70s, nunchucks were not simply a movie prop, but were officially classified into the category of illegal offensive weapons. Because of this strict regulation, all scenes with the appearance of nunchucks were cut mercilessly before the movie was allowed to be widely screened. The authorities believed that letting these images appear on the big screen could cause negative influences and encourage violent behavior in the community. This created a significant disappointment for martial arts film fans in Europe, as they could not fully admire the entertaining moves of the characters. It was not until many decades later, when the regulations on weapon censorship in movies began to loosen, that audiences in these areas had the opportunity to enjoy the most complete and intact version of the film. This censorship incident not only showed cultural differences, but was also a testament to the fact that a comedy movie sometimes has to face extremely strange legal barriers. Joe, flatly rejected by studios. After accepting unimaginably low salaries, the filmmaking team had to face another firewall even more devastating, which was the fierce rejection from the mainstream studio system. When taking the script of the Kentucky Fried Movie to knock on the doors of major studios in the cinema capital of Hollywood, the production group received cold shakes of the head and suspicious eyes. Most senior executives here thought that this project was a commercial madness and completely incapable of making a profit. The main reason why the big players were hesitant lay in the extremely strange structure of the movie. Instead of a continuous plot with well-developed characters, the film was a collection of short sketches, fake commercials, and fragmented parodies. In the eyes of film business experts at that time, this sitcom format was considered too risky and unstable a gamble to entice audiences to pay for theater tickets. They feared that the public would feel confused or even annoyed when having to follow a work without a clear connection and content. This skepticism was so great that people believed the segment comedy genre was only suitable for broadcast on free television and would never have a place alongside real cinematic works. However, it was the prejudiced view and flat refusal from the major studios that accidentally became a test for the bravery of the creators. They were not discouraged by the criticisms about being fragmented or difficult to access, but on the contrary, They were more determined to prove that difference and innovation were the keys to opening a new chapter for modern comedy. This refusal was not a final period, but the first spark that ignited the flame of creative resistance, leading to a fateful meeting that changed the entire fate of the project later. Sure, the beginning of the Zaz comedy empire. To understand the stature of the Kentucky Fried Movie, we need to know that this was the first brick building the illustrious comedy empire named the ZAZ Trio. This name is an abbreviation for three outstanding characters: Zucker, Abrahams, and Zucker. Before the whole world knew them through hit masterpieces like Airplane or the Naked Gun series, this trio started their career in a very modest way. They performed short comedy sketches live on the stage of a small theater in the Madison area in the state of Wisconsin. It was on that small stage that they honed their ability to observe and capture the psychology of the audience, to know what really creates laughter. When entering this first film project, they decided to bring those direct and vivid laughs intact into the film script. This approach accidentally created a completely new comedy style called spoof comedy or rapid parody. Its characteristic is an extremely fast pace, where humorous situations appear continuously, making the audience unable to breathe. This style was so unique that it became a gold standard for the Hollywood comedy genre, causing many later generations of filmmakers to study and learn from it seriously. Sure-e. The recycled gorilla suit. The interest of the Kentucky Fried Movie lies not only in the crazy script or special investors, but also in the surprising technical details behind the scenes. One of the scenes that makes the audience remember forever is the appearance of the gorilla character named Dino. However, behind the very authentic and vivid appearance of this monkey is a top-notch recycling story that few people can imagine. The character Dino was actually played by Rick Baker, a legend in the field of special effects makeup in Hollywood, who later won many prestigious Oscar awards. The most shocking thing here is the gorilla costume he wore. In fact, this was not a design made specifically for this low-budget movie. It was originally a design prototype, also known as a test model, that Rick Baker had worked hard on during his research on creating the shape for the blockbuster King Kong released in 1976. Instead of letting such a sophisticated and expensive design go to waste in storage after the big project ended, Rick Baker decided to bring it and breathe a new soul into the character Dino. Reusing a design from a movie with a huge budget like King Kong gave the Kentucky Fried Movie a huge visual advantage. It helped a low-budget comedy film have a creature character that looked extremely professional, far exceeding the standards of contemporary films with the same level of investment. This smart utilization proved that when passion and masterful skills meet, people can create great cinematic values from things that seem old. Rick Baker did not hesitate to directly put on that hot and heavy suit to bring the most refreshing laughs to the audience, contributing to creating an unforgettable mark in the hearts of fans of this movie for many decades. Shar. Filming to report to parents. One of the touching and equally humorous details about the Zucker brothers is the origin of the behind-the-scenes footage in the later DVD version. When performing the first scenes in Hollywood, David and Jerry Zucker always carried a vague worry that their family back home did not believe in the career they were pursuing. To solve this problem, the two brothers decided to use their personal 8mm cameras to meticulously record the activities taking place on the set every day. The original purpose of these films was not at all for promotional material or cinematic archival. Instead, they were filmed with the sole goal of sending them home to their parents as authentic evidence. They wanted to prove to their parents that they were actually working seriously in the glamorous movie capital of Hollywood and not indulging in play or wasting time on useless things. Those shaky, blurred, but authentic 8mm films recorded all the hardships, the smiles, and even the most stressful moments of the crew. It is surprising that later, those very family report films became invaluable documents, helping the audience have the deepest insight into the formation process of a classic work. It shows that behind the crazy scenes are ordinary people with very ordinary concerns about family recognition. Shasen. Lines taken from the Girl Scout Handbook. The humor of the Kentucky Fried Movie sometimes comes from sources that no one could expect, and item number 10 on this list is a prime example. In the closing segment of the martial arts parody, the character Lou, who was modeled after the character Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz, suddenly performed a very strange and silly speech. He stood in the middle of the ruins and advised the audience to do charitable work such as visiting dairy farms, organizing safety exhibitions, or helping build libraries for the community. These pieces of advice sound extremely out of place and completely unrelated to the dramatic combat context that just took place. However, the secret lies in the fact that the entire speech was not thought up by the screenwriters themselves. They copied these words verbatim from the Girl Scout Handbook, a document originally intended for children with moral teachings and basic life skills. Putting gentle educational lines into the mouth of a character who had just undergone fierce fighting created an extremely strong contrast and effective laughter. This is the pinnacle of parody art, when things that are inherently very serious and standard are placed in a completely wrong context to create absurdity. This detail once again affirms the boundless humor style of the Zucker trio, where any material in life can become great material for laughter. Shasu. The Fistful of Yen segment is the longest parody. If one segment must be chosen as the most representative of the creativity and economy of the crew, it must definitely be the parody of Bruce Lee's masterpiece Enter the Dragon under the name Fistful of Yen. This is the segment that takes up the largest amount of time in the film, lasting more than 30 minutes, which is nearly 1/3 of the total length of the entire work. To be able to perform such a large-scale martial arts segment with a tight budget, the crew had to utilize all their relationships and resourcefulness at major studios in Hollywood. They cleverly reused many old settings from other movies that were being left empty to set up the base of the villain. Despite using old items and recycled materials, under the talented staging hands of the director, the final result looked incredibly professional and grand. The authenticity of the action scenes and the carefully invested settings were so high that when the film was first released, many audience members mistakenly thought they were watching a real martial arts movie rather than a humorous parody. The success of this segment proved a truth that you do not need to have too much money. As long as you have enough dedication and creativity, you can still create quality films of international stature. Shiwu. Reaction of news agencies to News Team 4. One of the unexpected successes of the film was the powerful impact of the fake news segments called News Team 4. The writing team studied very carefully the way of reporting, the costumes, and the demeanor of television broadcasters at that time to create extremely realistic parody films. This imitation was so perfect that in 1977, when the film was broadcast or screened, many viewers accidentally watched it through the small screen and believed that those were hot news stories actually happening. The chaos in the reporting, the deeply satirical details, and the deadpan delivery of the actors created a humorous style with very high social criticism. This approach created a new wave in the art of entertainment, directly becoming a great inspiration for famous television shows later, such as Saturday Night Live or modern satirical news sites like The Onion. People realized that using seriousness to convey absurd things is the perfect formula to reflect the negative sides of society in a smart and laughter-filled way. Even today, the style of News Team 4 is still considered an exemplary lesson for anyone who wants to pursue a topical and political comedy genre. After nearly 50 years, the Kentucky Fried Movie remains a testament that sometimes the most daring films leave the most lasting marks. Perhaps not every joke remains relevant in today's era, but the film's spirit of daring to break all boundaries is still highly commendable. And perhaps that is the reason we still talk about it. If today you discovered a fact that surprised you the most, please share it in the comments section. Who knows? Your memory might spark another interesting story for those of the same generation.